Hi, I was asked by Jolie to make a video about how to make some props. Most of the props I use do not use anything fancy, just stuff that you can buy at any local store, like any Walmart, Kmart, or anything like that. So, here we go. Okay, so first is this sword that Dave uses from Homestuck, and the reason why I'm showing this one first is, one, because it's my first one, and I didn't use anything like Warbler or Wonderflex, I think that's what it's called. Stuff like that I haven't worked with yet, and I know that you can work with it, and it tends to work out better, but it's also way more expensive, and I am not having any of that because I don't have that money. But most of my props are costly, but they're worth it in the end because props can make and break your cosplay. So, okay, this one's Dave, and it's an incredibly light sword, which is what I get compliments about on because a lot of people think it's super heavy. It's about the size of me, so when I hold it up, it's around 11 to 12 feet tall. And what I did was I stick a dowel rod inside of it, and then I hot glued it, and then I use trifold paper, or it's near the cardboard section at Walmart, and I just cut them out with a an X-Acto knife, and the X-Acto knife sucks for the most part. This stuff is incredibly hard um, to cut out, so you might need to use something else, or just be very, very patient with an X-Acto knife. It sucks like when you go in here for the fine details and stuff like that. But for the most part, it holds up well, except for the first con I went to. One of my friends knocked into me, and one of the prongs actually broke. So I had to remake it and put more stuff around it to enforce it. But in the end, it worked really well. All I did was use dowel rods and a lot of that trifold paper. Trifold paper or cardboard, whatever it is, cost about $10 for a sheet, and I probably used two, so that was $20 right there. And the dowel rod I already had. I don't know how much they really are. And I used countless of hot glue. So that was really it for this. Another thing that you should take notice is paint. When you use paint or spray paint on this, you need to seal it with Mod Podge. It worked really well when I was in the rain at YumaCon, and it started just raining and it was everywhere, and my friends thought that my sword was going to be ruined, but it held up well. So definitely Mod Podge your items or whatever props you're doing that has paint on it. It seals it and it makes it nice. Okay, so this is my Inuyasha sword. My Inuyasha sword compared to the Dave sword is a lot heavier, but it was made with a different material. This was made of a material that you get at Home Depot. It's that pink installation foam. That costs more. I used about $30, I want to say, to make this entire one. But for the most part, it was simple. It was just cutting it straight out of the box. I used my friend Andy as a measurement for the sword length, which was 6 feet tall, and then add on a handle, which makes it around 6, maybe even 7 feet tall. With me holding it, that goes around 12 to 13 feet, somewhere around there, not exactly sure. But if you use the pink installation foam, here's what I have to warn you about, is that when you paint it, it will not handle anything like acrylic or what's that? Spray paint. It won't handle it, and it will actually eat your foam. And there you go. There's $30 right there. That wasted, and you can't save it. So what you do is you put on a thick layer of Mod Podge. You can also use glue, but you also need to use water-based paint that you can get from Walmart, and that's expensive too. That's around, I want to say, 20 to 30. I am not exactly sure on that, but you get a lot of it. And you just put a layer down, then you put another layer of Mod Podge, and you keep repeating that process. I found out the hard way that it does eat your foam. The first time I used it, I took just a chunk of it, see what it was going to do, and it melted everything. So that's what I just recommend you don't do, is don't spray paint it directly. Just cut it out and then file it, and then put the water-based paint, put the Mod Podge, and you're going to have to use several layers of that. That's going to be a day's work of just putting as much as you can on it to make sure that it does not eat your sword or prop, whatever you make out of using the pink installation foam. And it's, like I said, though, this one is much heavier than my Dave sword because I use that foam. But I used the foam because the cardboard would not work the way I wanted it to, and it was ultimately the best to use. I could have used Worbla or something like that, but like I said, I'm not in for the expenses. I like keeping my props cheap or something more affordable, even though this probably cost me around $70 to $80. But with the Worbla, it could have cost me around, I want to say, $100 to $150, and I didn't want to do that. So that's really it for the Inuyasha sword. Okay, so next is the other Dave sword that I used for Trickster Dave. Now, this one looks very similar to that one, but it's also different in material because I used both of the pink installation foam along with the trifold cardboard paper that you get at Walmart. Now, the reason why I had to make this one and make it different instead of just copying off of the Dave sword is because after having the Inuyasha sword along with the Dave sword, people in your car will hate you. So I needed to actually make this breakable. So what I did was I took a PVC pipe. PVC pipe you can get at Home Depot for, I think, roughly like $3-4, depending on how much you buy. So it cost me about $10. And you see that you can pop any of these off. I have this one, and then I have this one that can pop off. That the handle can pop off. All these prongs can pop off, along with the top can pop off. And how to keep it in place, I put pins inside of it, drilled holes, put pins inside of it, and I keep it together with also some Velcro. And this one is, I think it's bigger. I think it might be as big as the Tetsaiga, maybe even bigger. And it's made with that pink foam at the top, which makes it heavy. It's a lot heavier than any of my swords, and I think that's just because it's top heavy compared to having like a bottom weight. I guess this one cost me about probably the same as the rest, around $70 to $60 if you're doing it from scratch. But I don't know the fine details because I had almost everything together. The only thing I needed to buy would be the cardboard paper. So what I would say that this would actually be ideal for if you're making a huge prop and you're able to see anything that can make it be able to pop off in like the design. So yeah, that's the Dave sword.